Let's welcome Frank Cusumano from News Channel 5. Are we still saying News Channel 5?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, there's a smattering of applause.
Welcome him.
Yeah. So, Frank, tell us about, first of all, you brought in some food from Keemel's, which is really the real reason we had you in today.
I knew that was the only way to get in.
Yeah, it's radio. And so you have this incredible cheese spread that you put on bread, and wow.
Well, it's the cheese bread. Keemel's, we're celebrating our 90th anniversary. So,
congratulations.
For the first time ever, we're actually selling our cheese bread spread. It just started in stores at Straub's this week. But it's a true story is that 90 years ago, Mrs. Keemel, my grandma, was in the Keemel's kitchen. Keemel's used to be like Crown Candy. You know, they a little candy place, and they serve a little pasta, checkered tablecloths. So she was mixing a bunch of cheeses with oils and spices. And she's mixing it around, and she finally put some on Italian bread, and it tasted pretty good. And then she motioned my mom, who's now 90, this was 85 years ago, she was 5 at the time, said, "Come here, Mary Grace." And so she put the little cheese bread in my mom's mouth, and she smiled. And at that point, my grandma knew that this was the recipe forever, and it hasn't changed one bit in 85 years.
It's interesting because I have the similar story. My dad did that to me with cigarettes. Similar. It is similar, isn't it?
Stay with it.
It's awesome. Okay, so the Keemel's cheese spread, and it's available at Straub's only right now.
Well, it's going to be forever, we hope.
Oh, but I mean, will you expand to other stores or just?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Straub's is our first stop, and we want to stay with them for a while. But, yeah, eventually it'll go to other stores.
It's really good. All right, let's talk about the special, the rise and fall of the greatest show on turf. And is it a one-parter, a two-part? What do you tell us?
It's a 1-hour documentary.
Okay.
It airs Friday at 7 o'clock. And we have a great photographer, editor, Bill Zerhide, a great producer, and Larry Thornton. And they got the idea because Isaac Bruce said he's going to have one last game at the Dome.
Oh, right. I remember. He was in here. We came in and talked about it, right?
So we figured this was going to be the last time we were going to see this group together. It's not like they can have a reunion at Clayton High School,
Sure,
you know?
exactly.
So the Dome, they're not going to play more football there. So for this piece, we interviewed 20 people, whether it's media members, coaches, players, agents. We went through 400 pieces of archive video. It has no track, no stand-ups. It's the people who lived it tell the story. And, you know, if you tried to tell somebody this is what happened, you wouldn't believe it. I mean, you had the euphoria of everybody buying a PSL to the depression of, boy, this is a crappy team. Then all of a sudden, not only a Super Bowl team, but the greatest show in the history of football, and then the worst, 5-year stretch ever, and then the depression and the bitter divorce. I mean, it's a crazy 21-year tenure.
And the lawsuits about the PSLs themselves now.
Oh my goodness!
Think about all the people that were stuck with the the PSLs and the last years of the Rams being here. But be that as it may, this group of football fans, St. Louis's football fans, really never gave up on the team. I mean, we still brought people to the stadium. We still actually outdrew some teams in the NFL.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing because you had to deal with Linehan, Spagnuolo, and Fisher.
Some lousy coaches.
The worst ever. And we still supported them.
How does this happen where we go through these periods, not just the coaches, but the absolutely abysmal draft picks? How does that happen?
Well, it happens because John Shaw gives the president's job to a guy named Kevin Demoff, who wasn't qualified for the job. His father, Marvin, is a prominent sports agent. In fact, the craziest thing ever is here's Jeff Fisher, who has had 4 straight losing seasons, is going to have a 5th, and they're talking about a 3-year contract extension.
Extension, right?
Well, you know who his agent is? Marvin Demoff. You know who his son is? Kevin Demoff. How convoluted is that?
It's like kissing your sister.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So, it features. I'm sure that it's going to be a bittersweet 1 hour that we're watching, because I mean there were times it was like the McGuire era. You just felt good about it. You did, and you always had the hope, like hope springs eternal for baseball. But you always had the hope that we'd get on the field and we wouldn't be 8-8 or 7-9 or 5-11. You always thought that maybe we'll make the playoffs.
And it should have been more.
Yes.
Because it's almost like the way the Packers probably feel about Aaron Rodgers. He should win more than one Super Bowl. It should have been more, but because I put a lot of blame on John Shaw. He was in L.A., and then when Martz was taking over, there was this very uneven division of power. And he and Charlie Army fought. He and Jay Zygmunt fought. And instead of the greatest show on turf having legs and lasting, it ended like that. But how it began, and that's mainly what this documentary is about, is just crazy. The little backstories, like Dick Vermeil didn't want Marshall Faulk. He wanted a guy named Curtis Enos. Does anybody know who Curtis Enos is? Yeah.
No.
Well, a guy, let me tell you, he scored 2 more NFL touchdowns than you did. So he didn't have a great NFL career. And then one of the best things is Vermeil told me, we were talking about the Trent Green when he got injured and then deciding to go with Warner, the famous line, "We will rally around Kurt Warner," is that he said that in practice, he was watching Warner complete all these balls. And he said, when I made the decision, I either thought that Warner was an unbelievable quarterback or our secondary in practice was the worst ever. Because no ball was hitting the ground.
Right.
So one or the other, and I bet on Kurt.
Yeah. And what an amazing athlete he was.
Yep.
And continues to connect to St. Louis. One of the few on the team, I think, that continues. There are Orlando. There are guys that live here among us that have stayed in St. Louis and have given us, all to this town. But we were snookered. I mean, this town at the end, don't you think it would have been just sort of a better divorce for Stan Kroenke and his group of henchmen to come out and say, we're leaving, end of story. You don't have to spend $20 million showing us stadium draw plans and try and find land. How much money did we throw away as a city trying to keep this team that was just going to leave anyway?
Yeah, I think the figure is $16 million, but that's a great point. And you got to remember, the NFL was involved in this conspiracy too. I mean, they let us on. They let Dave Peacock know, hey, you get this thing done, we're going to keep this. You can keep your team. So they were just as guilty as Kevin Demoff and Stan Kroenke.
Roger Goodell, devil incarnate. I mean, is there anything redeeming about this guy?
Yeah, I cringe every time I see him on television.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from the way he's handled, players that beat up women to the way he handled our town. And the thing about it is the guy's had years where he's made like $35 to $40 million a year.
Right.
So, yeah, he's devil.
So my guess is we all will not be alive if there is ever an NFL franchise back in this city.
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think. Not in our lifetimes,
yeah.
No. I think, our best case scenario, and I think it's very realistic, and it's not quite the NFL, is the MLS.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And I think it's going to happen sometime in, December, January, where the announcement will happen. But
should.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
This is one of the greatest, beds of soccer.
Exactly. Yeah.
We've got a great history here.
And the MLS is not like your former outdoor soccer. It used to be around here a long time. This is big time, and it's sophisticated and really cool. 20,000 fans come to games, so I'm excited about that.
All right, before we let you go, and again, your special, The Rise and Fall, The Greatest Show on Turf, is on News Channel 5, 7 o'clock on Friday night, this coming Friday. Cards, hopes for the postseason, and, of course, tickets went on sale yesterday at noon for the game against the Cubs. What do you think?
Well, it's a 3-way tie as we speak.
Right.
Last night, the Giants lost 2 of their best players, their outstanding pitcher. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Cueto and Crawford. I just think when the leaves turn brown, the Cardinals are usually around. And I just have a feeling it was a 4-hopper on Saturday night by Randall Grichuk that changes the whole course of the season. Because if that ball doesn't get through and Crawford picks him up and throws him out, season over.
Right.
Somehow that good Cardinals karma, late in the year always works out. I think they're going to be there. And I'll tell you this, too, is with Carlos Martinez and Alex Reyes, if they get in, those are 2 nasty starting pitchers.
Oh, they really are, yeah. I'm
fun.
very impressed with Reyes, young as he is.
Yeah, he's something special.
Frank, thanks for being on the show. Frank Cusumano, always good to see you.
An honor to be here. It's the first time my wife has ever heard me on radio. I feel privileged. Yes, thank you so much.
Because she doesn't listen to you on... No.
She says you talk about that little sports stuff.
Precisely what we talked about today.
Yes.
All right, we'll have you in again.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for bringing all the Chemo's goodies to us. 7:24 with Phillips and Company.
The music you